Hey Factionistas, and welcome back to the 31 Days of Halloween. So today we're doing like a neon pumpkin. This isn't my favorite makeup look I've ever done, but like there are definitely really cool things you can pull from this. I really love the overall pumpkin shape. It's the whole green of the eye like threw me off, and like towards the end I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But you know, sometimes you don't have the perfect makeup day, so this could be a lesson learned for all of us, and just do you, boo. You feel me? We're starting off very true to form with my Eensy Weensy Teensy Deensy NYX white pencil, and I'm using this to just kind of sketch out the mouth line, like overall shapes. I do this because I like to stay focused on like where I want my overall designs to be, so outlining it beforehand really helps me out. And then, so I'm just drawing like a little bit of erratic teeth, exactly how you would kind of carve a pumpkin. You know what I'm saying? It's perfect. So I'm also grading a little bit of detail around the nose, and then kind of sectioning off the mouth shape. We're going to use two water-activated face paints as our base, this orange and this light brown. I wanted to mix them together because the orange itself was a little bit too neon for me, and I wanted to translate it more realistic pumpkin. I almost said popcorn. So you want to just apply this base all over your face and then switch to a smaller detailed brush to get around the eye area, the nose, and in between each of those teeth to really hug it around the negative space, leaving the negative space bare. So now I'm going in and I'm going to start shading the pumpkin. So I'm using a dark brown eyeshadow, and I'm kind of sectioning off these very extended C shapes, and that's really going to start adding the curvature of the pumpkin. So they don't have to line up or anything. Like my forehead is kind of like its own separate pumpkin, and the rest kind of falls together, but you want to just create these curve shapes so to try to translate the illusion of movement. And then I'm going in with this Makeup Geek eyeshadow in the shade Friend Zone, and I'm going to use this to start shading the lines. So I'm 90% shading out inside the line and 10% shading outside the line, if that makes sense. So I'm not just applying the shadow on one side, I am getting it on both sides, but very heavily on the inner part of that line. Does that make sense? So the line I'm working on now, I'm shading into the right side of the line, and then the one on the right, I'm shading on the left side of the line, mostly. Does that make sense? I really hope so. But we're going to do that essentially to every single one, and that's going to start creating a little bit of movement. This is essentially our transition shade, if you want to talk about it in smoky eye terms. So we're just going to apply that to all the lines. But when you get to the cheekbone and the temple area, you kind of want to start contouring like it's a normal beauty makeup. You don't want to really follow the strict pumpkin lines. You want to add overall face shape. Since this is a pumpkin face, you want to add depth both as a face and as a pumpkin. Once you get that onto your entire face, we're going to go in with one more eyeshadow. Oh, no, just kidding. We're going to go in with the Makeup Forever Flash palette. I'm going to use yellow. So what the yellow is going to do is it's going to add a little bit better color tone to the overall pumpkin. It's going to add that warmth of that yellow, but it's also going to seamlessly blend that eyeshadow that we had just laid down because that cream is going to work right on top of it. This is a cream paint. What we used previous was a water-activated paint, and cream paints really blend so fantastically on top of water-activated face paints. So you're really going to get a nice, seamless, almost airbrushed finish. And then I'm going in with this eyeshadow. This is in the shade Fudge. This is by Anastasia. These are the same eyeshadows I use in my Scarecrow makeup because they're the perfect warm tone browns. So I'm applying these instinctively. So right now I'm doing the lower part of the line, and I'm adding a lot of shading and darkness. And then I'm also doing it on the top part of the line only. And that's going to add maximum depth on the top and bottom. And that's overall going to sell the curvature that the pumpkin is three-dimensional and that it's rounding out. Does that make sense? So once you kind of see it, when I start adding a little bit more, you can kind of see that this pumpkin is really starting to get a more realistic shape because the shadows are in all the right places. And then once you get to the temple and the cheekbone area, again, you want to start creating it more like a beauty makeup. So you want to add depth into that cheekbone to really get that hollowed out cheekbone shape. And then you essentially want to do the top and bottom of every single line that you would already place down on the pumpkin to really get that curvature. You feel me? I know you feel me. I really need to come out with You Feel Me t-shirts. Would you guys buy them? You feel me? Or, I don't even know. What else can I say? Grungy? I can get a grungy t-shirt. Anyway, so we're using the Fudge eyeshadow too to really lightly dot it around the nose, and we're going to add that nose contour as well. You want to add shape everywhere that light and shadow would hit normally when you don't have a full coverage foundation on, which is, in this case, face paint. So now I'm going in with this lime green color, which I really, really love it on the teeth. So I'm just applying it where I had already outlined that teeth to really get that traditional pumpkin-shaped mouth. I love this neon lime green on the mouth. I don't think I should have done it on the eye, if that makes sense. I think the eye really does focus better with dark eyeshadows, but for some reason I don't want to use black because why would the inside of its mouth be green and the inside of its eyes be black? It's the same pumpkin. It should be like a green candle inside illuminating for all three of those places, but I don't really know. So take what you will and get creative with it. But I also apply this to the eye and then also into the middle of the nose. And I'm doing a little bit of a brow curve, you know what I mean? Get some furrow lines and all that good stuff. So now I'm going to start shading the mouth. So I'm going in originally with Friend Zone, which is the first eyeshadow we had used, and I'm applying it to the top triangle of every single tooth shape. And right after you do that, you want to grab Fudge, and you're going to deepen it up. You're going to grab a lot smaller brush, and in a very small area right at the base of that, you want to add Fudge. And then since these eyeshadows are so pigmented, it's covering up that green, but we're adding a lot of depth to add curvature around each tooth. So once you get all that depth in there, you want to go back in with the lime green and then get a nice clean triangle to go right into where we had just shaded. And that's going to add shadow around each tooth, and it's going to make it look a lot more three-dimensional, which is really cool and really attractive to the eye. So that's how you shade a little bit of a toothy tooth. I've done it in a few videos too, so it's really life-changing technique to do teeth like this. So with a little bit of a felt tip eyeliner, I'm just going to outline all the inner parts of that tooth that are blending into the negative space, which today is the lime green. This is the Tarte felt tip, but it's starting to die on me, but I've been using it so much in such wide areas. It lasted quite some time, but now it's dying. I'm taking a white eyeshadow now, and I'm going to start highlighting. I tried to highlight with a white cream paint with the Makeup Forever white, and it just wasn't working out for some reason. I don't know why. So I'm using just a white eyeshadow instead. This one's from Makeup Forever, which is my favorite white eyeshadow of all time. It's actually the most pigmented white I've ever seen. It's very tricky to get a pigmented white eyeshadow in the world, if you ask me. So this is where I start to just hate everything. So I'm trying to put dark eyeshadows around the curvature of my eye because I wanted to use the black scleras. I thought those would be like the most striking, and it would really come out with a nice demon pumpkin. So I thought I needed black pigments to really blend out from those contacts so it looks like a little bit more unison. But I don't know. I didn't feel like I didn't want to cover up too much of the green, so I left the inner part of my brow to kind of highlight, which ends up making my eyes look like a wonky Cleopatra. I have no idea, so I tried. But maybe for this, I would say either just going in with a traditional black eye, maybe highlighting it with that lime green around it, or who really knows? I don't know. I'm dying here. Once you have your scleras in, I'm going in with a deep green and like an emerald eyeshadow, and I'm just contouring some of the green areas, mostly the nose. I put a little bit on the outer part of the mouth, but I did it so light you can't even see it because I was too nervous to mess this bad boy up. But so when I put in my contacts, I cried out a ton of my makeup like I always do, and then I thought, okay, well, why don't I just roll with it and put some green tears? I do like the green tears, but then I decided to get even more creative with it and put pink in there, and I don't think I like it either. So I was like, I don't know. It was one of those stressful filming things where I just couldn't pull it together. And especially with the 31 days of Halloween, it's like I have no choice but to continue on because I have no time to really film again, so I'm just going with it. But, yeah, so I'm adding a little bit of black eyeshadow here, too, now, and kind of smoking out into that green. I'm trying to cover up as much green as possible. The green was a mistake. But, so now I'm going in as a final technique here to really finish it all up, is to grab the texture sponge that I use all the time with some black face paint, and to add that final texture around the perimeter of the face, around the cheekbones and all that stuff, and that really sells it. So I really love the overall pumpkin shading, and you guys can definitely take a lot of this to shade a pumpkin. But whether you use neon green or not, it's up to you, my friends. But that's a finished tutorial, my friends. I say my friends way too much. I hope you guys like this video and learned something cool in here, and really can pull techniques and kind of transform yourself into a little pumpkin monster this Halloween season. And you guys are the greatest. But I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Bye, friends.